This is Project Vasari, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you how you can quickly create a conceptual model that you then analyze and get a report on. So what I did is I just added a couple of extra floors. I assumed they were 16-foot centres. I'm looking at my building site, as it were, and I'm ready to draft. So I tell it I'm going to create a mass. I'm going to use line work to draw that mass. I'm going to put this in the model, and you see by moving it I can adjust the size. I'm just going to pick the size exactly as it is, so the line work's in place. I pick the surface that it created and I just drag that up so you can see that it's got an extruded form. And in Vasari you've got some options that you don't have in Revit architecture. For example, I could say why don't we align to the top floor the roof, and use that to really just move the roof surface to the very top. I've got my building and I'm now finished with the mass model. So if I pick the building, I can now say to it, why don't you cut through this with floors. There's my first floor. I'm going to come down here and click on that. There's the other floors selected, and they just sliced all the way through my model. I can just show you the benefit of working in BIM is that immediately I got all of this data calculated from the model. That's the floor volume total and per floor, floor perimeter, floor area, exterior surface. So this is interactive. For example, if I said edit in place and I pick this top surface and I'm editing the profile, I'm going to make my building just a little bit more complex than what I had started with. So I'm going to put this and draw that in as a curved edge and then say I'm finished with the mass. Right, so now my building actually looks more like that. And if I go back to my mass schedules, I'll say I'm finished with the mass, editing the mass, you see there's the updated values. You'll see now different values for each floor because it's actually calculating based on where the floor masses are cutting through the building. That's kind of the first part of my process, and I'm creating a mass model. The second part, and I can show you here, is that I want to do the study. So I go to surfaces and sign in, and I give it my password, and that's me done everything that I need to do to create the study of my building. Because now I can come up to the Analyze tab. I can look at the Analyze settings, and what by default I'm saying this is an office, so it knows the number of people in the building and the kind of fittings there are based on occupancy. It knows the location in the world. I can tell it here whether it should or shouldn't create an energy model. I'm telling it to do that. I'm going to accept defaults like this 40% of glazing on the outside surfaces and the sill height. I just want to show you how quick it was for me to create a model of my building. And I can go through and apply those values. And not only can I apply the values so there are now quantifiable results on the surface of the building, but now I can say, well, do me an analysis, and it offers me the name of the report that it wants to create, or I could type in a name. I'm just going to accept it as it is. Now at this point it's not obvious, but it's actually doing cloud computing. It's running the software on servers that are much more powerful than my desktop, and it's going to give me results. And even while I was waiting for the results, I could be going in and saying, you know what if I was able to reduce the size of my building by just a couple of feet on one side, and now my surfaces look a bit like that, everything is up to date. So I can actually be making modifications to the mass as it's producing my report. I'm going to go up here and just look at the report that's being produced. The one I've got is like 92% complete. It'll actually, I can close that, it will notify me in my project. When that first study is done, the Revit alert pops up, and when I want to see it, I can click on it and look at it. Look at the data that I've got, right? It knows it's Boston, it's accessed the closest weather data file, and it knows that the maximum temperature is 82 degrees Fahrenheit, minimum -10. It knows that for an office I have 503 people. It knows the local fuel cost, $1.54 per therm in Boston. It's doing things like calculating the the energy cost over a 30-year period, close to $4 million for the design as it is at the moment. And it's giving me lots of graphic data on where my energy is expended. You know, in this building with its HVAC system, 65% on electricity, 35% on fuel. And I can look at these results and kind of isolate what it is in my building that I need to address in order to create a better final project. My heating loads, my cooling loads. It's got information on wind roses, so I know like where are the strongest winds coming from, where are they coming from most frequently. I've got it on a month-by-month basis. There's even more on this in Vasari 1.1 that I'll show you later on, but right now I'm just doing the overview. Right, so if I kill that report, I can actually come into my model, and I'd applied like generic settings, but now what I'm going to do is, looking at the faces, I'm going to click on my model, and I'm using the tab key to click on the model here, and then what I'm going to say is, you know, I picked the exterior wall, and I'll just make this a little bit bigger so you can see the values, right? I picked the exterior wall. I don't want those values to come from the energy settings table that I edited, but I want them to be by surface. This is the south side of my building, and I want like 80% glazed openings. And maybe I even want the openings to be shaded. And I'm assuming that I'm going to put like a 3-foot shade on my building. There's the change to my model that I can now work on. I might also do something like this. I could say, you know, I'm looking at my mass model, and I'm looking at the zone that you created for me at the top of the building, which if I pick it and I look down here, it said that the space in there was the same as the building, in other words office. But I could come down here and I could start to apply actual different activities. Let's say that this is going to be let's make it a classroom lecture training area within the building. So that's going to adjust the occupancy loads and make changes to my model. Right? I now go and I say, cool, let's do another analysis. So click, there's analysis 2. Remember, this has been done on the cloud. And so it's now letting me evaluate the consequences of my design. And this is the purpose of Vasari, is that I can make quick changes, and I can look at the consequences, and I can say, well, this is a change for the better, or this is a change for the worse, depending on what my goals are with regard to energy modeling. So I believe it's probably almost done already. I'm not editing this in any way to make it look faster than it is. It's 96% done. I'm going to adjust this on my screen to make it as big as I can. And now what I've got is the option of being able to say, you know what, why don't you, picking both these reports, why don't you compare them side by side? So I'm looking at analysis 1 against analysis 2. And I'm going to scroll down just to look at a few of the consequences, like my energy budget actually dropped, right? It's now closer to $3,600,000 than the $3,973,000 that it was before. I can look in my building and look for changes and evaluate, you know, why did they happen, what do I need to do to make it even better. That is the essence of Vasari, that it's visual. You work on a model. You can choose how you're looking at that model as you work on it. You can create surfaces with quantitative data, and by just tabbing through, let me do just one more to show you. If I tab through to the surface on here, which was the glazing, I can go in and I can make customized changes. Right? I want that to be double pane and tinted on that side of my building. So I can make custom changes within my mass model and evaluate results. And I haven't really had to draw very much at all in terms of, well, except for the overall form of the building. Well, I hope that kind of gives you an overview of what's possible. and let me know if there's other movies that I should include to expand on the topics that you might have identified within that whole process. Thank you.